You're never gonna make it, you're not good enough. There's a million other people with the same stuff. You really think you're different? Man, you must be kidding. Think you're gonna hit it, but you just don't get it. It's impossible, it's not probable, you're irresponsible. Too many obstacles, you gotta stop it, yo. You gotta take it slow, you can't be a pro. Don't waste your time no more. Who the are you to tell me what to do? I don't give a you say you disapprove. I'm gonna make my move, I'm gonna make it soon. And I'll do it cause it's what I wanna do. Cause all these opinions and all these positions, they come in millions, they blocking your vision. But no, you can't listen, that shit is all fiction. Cause you hold the power as long as you're driven. There's no way that you make it. And maybe you can fake it, but you're never gonna make it. Or will you fight?
Hello and welcome to Game Day from the UK, another Miami Heat UK live pre-game streaming show here tonight to preview the game against the Chicago Bulls. Let's introduce the cast. Bilal Monar, you got here just in time. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Literally, we've got 10 seconds left. Bilal joins the chat. It's like, yes, here he is. Olly, Rahimi, you all right, my man?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good, thank you.
I'm good. The order's sort of the wrong way round tonight. It's strange, but we'll roll with it. I don't know what happened there. Guys, as always, a big week coming up. Probably the biggest week of the season so far as we look towards this week's schedule. But before we get onto that, as always, let's reflect on the last game out. A win in the end against the Spurs. Short-handed off the second night of a double overtime back-to-back with Washington. And yet it went down pretty much to the last possession. So not a comfortable Heat win. I suppose that's what you get when you play pop teams. But a win nevertheless, and it keeps this run going. Very unlike Heat sort of showing, though, Ollie. It wasn't the sort of... It was like maybe almost taken for granted. We didn't put the foot on the accelerator throughout the game. We kept taking our foot off the gas, which is allowing the Spurs back in. And for the second game running as well, a really cold start.
Yeah, it was. I actually tweeted early on in the game, I think during the first quarter, that that the Heat just looked a bit tired and they looked a bit sort of not very focused on defense and in the switch and everything. It was a really easy start for the Spurs, and you know they got out to a big lead. Thankfully, obviously, we managed to get it back. But yeah, I think maybe it was a little bit of fatigue from the second night of a back-to-back, as you mentioned. But we hope that that's going to be eradicated, especially this week, because, as you said, we've got 4 games now this week against the other 4 contenders to make it out of the East. This is going to be the week that I think shapes a lot of the rest of the season. Obviously, there's a hell of a lot of games to go. We could still finish in the 1 seed, even if we lost all 4 of these games. But it would just mean a lot, I think, in terms of playoffs and what to expect come the postseason, because chances are, if we're going to want to go far, if any of these teams are going to want to go far, they are going to have to be playing each other in a 7-game series. So, yeah, it's going to be an important week. But, yeah, as you said, it was a slow start against the Spurs. Hopefully, we won't have that again tonight because the Bulls are a much better team than the Spurs are. So they would probably be more able and capable to hold on to a lead if they were to get out to one.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's a statement week this week. It's not make or break. We can come back with we win all 4 of these games, lose all 4 of them games, or somewhere in the middle. It's not going to make any difference in terms of... no, we're not going to have a final output to what happens with this season, but it is a big statement week, so it's going to be interesting to see. And I'm glad you sort of brought it up with, we probably won't see that tonight against the Bulls because obviously they're on our tails. And Bilal, that's the main thing that sort of I took away from both of those games, because the Knicks games, even though the Knicks game was a heavy win in the end, and we all called it correctly, by the way, but it was one of those that, again, it's like we played down to the opposition, and we do that quite a lot. And that's no disrespect to the Spurs. They're always going to be a hard-working team, but they're not a team you should be worried about. And yet it took us a lot to get past them, and they was extremely underhand. What Ollie said there as well, Bilal, was perhaps a bit of fatigue and a bit of tiredness. And I thought that too. And I know it's a back-to-back, but they've just had a week off. Should that be alarming?
I think so. We were, like Ollie said, we had fatigue, but the Spurs just had a double overtime game. So I didn't really see an excuse for that. And then the Knicks game as well, we had a whole week off, like you said, and we still started off slow. Yeah. But it's like it takes us a long time to wake up. And it's like the second unit actually rejuvenates us with Tyler Herro, Gabe Vincent, especially in the Knicks game. They're the ones that brought us back. It wasn't the starters. And then Jimmy kind of went nuclear in the third quarter. Yeah. But yeah, I think it is something to watch out for.
I think it's I just highlighted it in my notes as very unheat like, and I think that was because it wasn't. It's just one of those performances that you don't expect. It was like you don't expect the Heat to turn up sort of thinking they've won, and I got that feeling that they went onto court thinking that game was in the bag, and you can't do that in any NBA game. Bam Adebayo, Ollie, was a massive spark in the Spurs game. A season high 36 points, but ignoring his offensive prowess, especially last night, but recently as well, his defensive game just continues to rise, doesn't it? And are we looking here, if he wasn't out for so long, we're looking at the player of the year, aren't we? Sorry, defensive player of the year, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, as you said, it's so unfortunate for him that he has missed that 6 weeks, because if he was fit and active for that time, then he would almost certainly be in the conversation, leading it probably. He's been in the conversation for the last couple of years, and he's been all NBA team defensive teams. So he's made it. His name's out there. People know him. But yeah, that 6 weeks period that he's missed might have cost him Defensive Player of the Year. But his defense in the last week, 2 weeks, just since he's come back, really, it's just been incredible. I tweeted something out that said that he is, and I've seen a few other people saying this as well, he's a generational defender. There isn't anybody in the NBA that has his skill set, versatility, switchability on the defensive end. Yes, there are probably players that are better at certain aspects of defense than he is. For Giannis, for example. But he has that total package. He can do absolutely everything. He can guard 1 through 5. He's 6'9", so it means that he has that ability and the agility to guard a 1 and a 2. But then he's also got that physicality to guard up against the 4s and the 5s. So yeah, his defensive IQ is just incredible. And to think he's still only 24, 25 years old. Yep. Yeah, I think if it wasn't for Giannis's dominance, then we'd be looking at an almost certain Defensive Player of the Year for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and we also keep getting an improvement in performance or aspects to his game year on year. So it's by no means the finished package, and that's the scary thing about it. If he can stay healthy, and apart from this one break that he had 6 weeks or whatever it was out, that's the only real delay or hindrance he's had in his career so far. So if he can stay healthy and completely keep improving his game year on year like he's doing, generational is perhaps the right word to say here. We're looking at a special player. Before we come into the game tonight against the Bulls, Bilal, another player that we have to mention, Tyler Herro, again, 27 points. He's just quietly being brilliant, isn't he? And I think that's a really good way to put it, because people will look at the box scores always and just say, oh, another good night for Tyler Herro. That's great to see. But his all-round game is just improving before our eyes. His IQ, his knowledge to where these moves that he's bringing out. If he's got the ball in his hands now, forget the fact that he's going to shoot, because that's what he's always been good at. Getting to the basket is becoming an ease for him, and he's making them work 9 times out of 10. Tyler's rise here. We've got a star on our hands.
Yeah, definitely. I do believe he has the potential to be a future All-Star. I feel like the off-season was really big for him. It looked like he got a lot stronger, especially the lower part of his body that allows him to burst to the rim. As you can see, he's finishing now with both hands at ease, finishing with contact. He's creating his own shot. He's become such a great player. And I think none of the Heat fans would have expected that kind of rise during that off-season, especially after the season he had last season. So I feel like when we are struggling, especially in the first quarters, he comes on and he brings that spark and brings that energy for everyone else to follow.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly it as well. He's been needed. His presence has been needed since he come back from injury. We've said it before. Whenever he has these little niggles where he's out, he comes back. He just seamlessly goes straight in. But he's been so important. We don't probably win one of those 2 games without him in the team there, coming off the bench, providing that spark and getting us going. And for a guy who's finally had a full off season, we're reaping the benefits. Ollie, you're off mute. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, 2 things. He's 21, like he's still only 21 years old. His ceiling is very high. But another thing that I've mentioned before, I think he is so important to the Heat that when he's out, we feel the effects of that more than we do when a Kyle, a Jimmy, or a Bam is out. And that might sound ridiculous because on the face of it, Kyle, Jimmy, and Bam are better players than Tyler, and they are. But I think we have people that can plug holes and fill the gaps when those guys are out in the short term. But we don't have anybody that can give us that spark of 20, 25, 30 points off the bench, pure scorer, like a pure hooper. Like we don't have anybody like that. So yeah, for me, he's so important, and his rise has been amazing this year.
Yeah, and this is another reason why that they've done a great job in resisting the urge to put him in the starting five, because a lot of people would see that and want him in that team, but he's too important. His role is embraced it, is flourished in it, and it's exciting to see, because we could have another level to go as we crank up to playoff time. We could see another rise, and that's really exciting. Quickly, one more thing there, Bilal. Ollie just said there about the bench role, plug and play, and he can come off and do that sort of thing. One guy that we spoke about briefly last time out and hasn't featured really since is Max Strus. No minutes against the Spurs. We mentioned about him maybe needing a little bit of a mini rise after a bit of a slump. Maybe that's a little bit harsh, but slump perhaps the right word. Are we seeing the 9-man rotation take grip now? We've got Oladipo to come back any minute now. Could Max be really used on a situational basis now, or is there still a chance for him this season? There's still lots of basketball to be played.
I think we are nearing the time of the 9-man rotation. We are kind of strengthening that lineup, and we are getting very close to the playoffs. Max's defense, if we're honest, is not really good. So he is kind of unplayable at times. And we do have someone in Duncan Robinson who does kind of the same thing. So I think it will be a lot of situational stuff. I'm not sure how many minutes he logged on against Knicks, but he did come off. He did come on and shoot a nice 3-point shot. So I feel down the stretch we will see a bit more of that Ernie. I don't see him playing big minutes unless someone is out.
I agree. Yeah, I think that his season's by no means done. He's a useful player, and he's not really done anything wrong. Let's make that right. But I think that we're maybe seeing now the squeeze just starting to take shape. So it may be that it's a handful of minutes, unless there's an injury, of course, and then he'll get another chance again. On to tonight's game then against the Bulls. Just a game behind us, 39-22. 1 game back, same record played. We've already beat them twice this year. They're on good form, 6 wins in the last 7. But of course, the one question mark that always pinpoints against the Bulls is when they come up against a good team, i.e. Memphis Grizzlies last time out, they lose. The game before, 6 games on a trot they won. The game before that, the Suns, they lose. 2-12, I believe, is their record against 0.600 teams. Ollie, they have got a lot of weapons, a lot of things that can hurt you, and they are still short-handed a little bit with no Lonzo, no Caruso, which I know is big to their plans. But this is the reason why a lot of people have said, fun team, good team, they can hurt you. But when it gets to the nitty-gritty, when you get against the playoff teams, they're maybe not the threat that you'd be scared of. That's fair, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I'm plugging my tweets a lot, but yeah, another thing that I tweeted out. So yeah, you're right. The Bulls against teams that are 600 and above are 2-12 on the season. Miami, in contrast, are 9-6. So that percentage kind of translates. It equates to what our overall season percentage is. And these are the teams that you're going to want to be playing if you want to win it all. You're not going to get to the finals. You're not going to win a championship by playing those under 500 teams that you can, or the Bulls have, blown out with ease. You're going to have to play a 7-game series against these guys. And they have a brilliant team. There's no doubt about it. There's no getting around it. But as you said, I just don't think that they have enough about them to withstand a Brooklyn, not a Brooklyn anymore, a Philadelphia, a Milwaukee, even a Miami. And I kind of see them as the flip side of Miami. So as you mentioned just now, the Heat have the tendency to kind of play down to their opponents, and they struggle against the weaker teams, and then they play up against the bigger teams, the better teams, which is always great to see. I think the Bulls are just the flip of that. They can just completely smash the smaller teams, the poorer performing teams, which is good. Like, you want that. I'd love the Miami Heat to be able to do that, but then they come up against the better teams in the league and they really struggle. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. They haven't beaten the Heat this season. In FTX, I'd always fancy the Heat, so it'll be interesting. No Kyle Lowry as well, so we'll have to plug that hole. Probably Gabe Vincent, but yeah.
Yeah, Bilal, that was the next thing. No Carl tonight, out for personal reasons again. Carl's been sensational since he's come back. Is that maybe understated there? That Gabe Vincent, that we've sung his praises all season. But that's a big miss against a good team, and this is still a good team, as you said. This is lots of players that can hurt you in this team. One we'll come on to, especially in a minute. But Carl Lowry is going to be a big miss tonight, isn't he?
Oh, of course. Whenever Kyle Lowry's not playing, it's a big miss. It's basically kind of like our team from last season, and Kyle Lowry, since he's come, we win the first seed. So, but I believe every time that Gabe Vincent starts, when Kyle Lowry's not here, he always plays well. Always. I feel like he plays better when he starts rather than coming off the bench. I feel like he feeds off the energy of Butler and Bam, plays good defense, and also Lonzo is not here today, so it kind of balances it out. And I feel like he will play good defense if what's his name, Kobe White is playing. So I feel like that will be a good matchup to watch.
Yeah, no, that's a good point to make. He does seem to play better when he starts games in Carl's absence. He was brilliant in his absence as well. So I think we're going to have a good game from Gabe tonight. I'm going to be interested to watch him. DeRozan, Ollie, MVP candidate, I think is fair to say. 30 points plus on 10 games running, I believe now. I think just missed out on his 35 plus game. Sensational basketball the guy's playing. The main threat tonight is going to come from him. Who's going to have the assignment of keeping him quiet?
I think Jimmy / PJ. It'll be obviously a team effort. But yeah, just wanted to touch on him and his season as a whole. He's been phenomenal. You said that just then he had that 7 or 8 game stretch where he averaged 35 points or more on 50% or plus shooting as well from the mid range. Yeah. He barely takes any threes. He is an old school star of the NBA, and it's really nice to see. Like it's a bit of a throwback, but no, I love it. He's been fantastic, and he's definitely, for me, he's first team All NBA. I don't think he's MVP. I think if he'd have had this run that he's had over the last couple of weeks, if that had been months, and if that goes to the end of the season, then yeah, by all means, put him in that conversation. But I think as of right now, it's probably Joel Embiid, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But stopping him tonight is the main point. And if the Heat are going to win, then they're going to need to somehow stop him. Thankfully, we do have a lot of very good defenders on our team. So PJ, Jimmy, I'm sure they'll both get the assignment. Bam as well will switch. But Bam in the past has kind of struggled against Nikola Vucevic. So that'll be interesting to see as well. When he was in Orlando, Bam typically hasn't had the best of luck against him. So yeah, another interesting matchup. It's just going to be a really good game. 2 really good teams, 1 and 2. It's not on national television, which I don't understand, but the media never talk about the Heat. So what do you expect?
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to be a really good game, and they are 2 really good teams. Let's make that 100% right, because we talk about the favourites and what the Heat could, maybe try and avoid the Bucks. The Sixers now looking great, and the Nets when they're back to full strength, of course. But the Bulls are legit. Let's have it right. They're a legit team. They're better defensively than what all of us gave us credit for the season. They've had missed key players all season, like everyone has, but they're a legit team. They're 1 game back from us for a reason. At full strength, Bilal, what is their ceiling at full strength? Get Lonzo back, get Caruso back, get this team at full strength. How far could they go?
Oh, that's a tough question, Dan, because I feel like it's all about their matchup. Because I feel like if they are at the high end of the conference and they play one of the kind of 500 teams in the East, a Raptors or Hawks, I feel like they could beat them. But I feel like if they played anyone else, such as, name it, the teams we're playing this week, basically, Philly, Bucks, Nets, they won't beat us. So it could be a first one, it could be a second one. It depends on their seeding, if I'm honest.
Yeah, that's the problem for them. I think that is really fair, because it's no disrespect to them. It's just that I think that at full strength, they're going to come against in the second round, if they get there, of course. In the second round, they're going to come against one of those teams, and over a 7-game series, at full strength, they're probably not going to have enough to unlock them. But it will be fun. They're a fun team. They're a good team. We'll see how they go. Let's go around and get some predictions then. But before we do, I want to also just check. We know this is a big week. Bulls tonight. Bucks next up, then the Sixers, then the Nets, then the Nets, then the Sixers. So a real tough week where we really will find out what this team is made of. I want your predictions firstly, please, on what you think is going to be the toughest game this week, and B, what your prediction is throughout the week. So what your record is. Ollie, I'll start with you.
Toughest game, I am going to go with, it's going to be either Philly or Milwaukee. Are we playing? I think we're away at Milwaukee, are we?
We're away at Milwaukee, away at Brooklyn, and then we bring Philly back home.
Back. In that case, I'm probably going to edge towards the Bucks. I think it's always tough playing there. So, yeah, that's going to be really difficult. These 2 games that we've won against the Spurs and the Knicks, for me, have been really important. If we had gone into this week splitting those 2 games, then I think the outlook for this week would have been a lot worse. So making that 2-0 start or return from All-Star, it kind of allows us that leeway to maybe we could go 2-2. If we go 500 during this week, I'd personally be happy with it. I'd take it now because that is 4 really tough teams. Kyle's out tonight. We've got a back-to-back in there. 4 games in, 6 days. So it's going to be tough. But yeah, I think it's going to be Milwaukee's the toughest one.
Yep. Okay. I think that's fair. Bilal, you're nodding along.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be Philly. I feel like that's the last game of the road, like the stretch. So that'll be the hardest to close it out. We don't know what they're gonna look like with Harden and Embiid because they've been balling out in the past 2 games, and we struggled with them last time. I feel like the Bucks, we've just seen it so many times. I feel like they know what they need to do to win. And we need to watch the space about Kyle Lowry because we don't know if he's gonna come back. So
yeah, that's a good point. It's an understated point as well. I think look, the chemistry already looks really good in Philly between their 2 superstars there. They're a legit team. We know that anyway. They're only going to keep getting better, you would expect. But I think because of the Kyle Lowry factor, he could very well be out again for Wednesday. We just don't know. He could be out all this week. We don't know. Hope everything's okay there. But yeah, I think the Bucks is probably in their building. It will be raucous. It will be energetic. They're at full strength pretty much. So I think that's probably going to be the toughest game. But look, it's a tough week. We've got a lot in front of us. We'll see what happens. Let's hope we come out of it with a winning record. Let's wrap today up then. The game against the Chicago Bulls. On paper, perhaps the easiest one, but we won't say that to the Bulls UK page. You won't have any of that. Ollie, let's start with you. What are you thinking tonight?
I think it's going to be a proper old school 90s basketball. I think it's going to neither team's going to reach 100. I think it'll be tight. I think Heat by maybe 3 or 4.
Okay, good stuff. Bilal?
Yeah, I agree with Ollie in terms of the 90s game. I would say Heat by 7, and I want to say this week we go 3-1.
I like it. Yep, I will take 3-1 right now. Snatch your hand off for that. I think it's going to be quite a slow game. I think both teams are good at getting to the line. I think it could be very stop-start. Yeah, 90s basketball is a good way to put it. I think we could see a bit of a throwback game tonight. I'm going to go for a low 100s Heat win. I'm going to say 104-100. We'll take that. We'll get on the road for the 2 games with a win there. Let's hope it comes off. Thanks very much for joining. Thanks very much for tuning in. Enjoy the games, guys. Enjoy a week full of good basketball. Grant Brown in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Grant, I know you'll still be listening. If you're available this week, we'll be streaming again, obviously, as you know. We'll get you on. We'd like to have you on and chatting with us. It'll be good because I know you always support this account. Until then, guys, follow us at the Miami Heat UK for in-game comms tonight. 12:30 is the tip-off. And follow us and subscribe to the Miami Heat UK YouTube channel. Thanks very much, guys. Speak to you soon.